Imagine you've spent 30 years quietly building your super, $500,000 you always pictured going to your kids. Here's the part most people never realise. When you die, if that money goes straight to an adult child instead of a spouse, the tax office can take up to 17% off the top before your family sees a cent. That one detail, who's named on a single form, can turn a $500,000 nest egg into an $85,000 tax bill, and it's completely avoidable once you know how it works. Now, if you've never looked at this before, that's not a failure on your part. Most people are never told it even matters. Super Consumers Australia found 6.5 million Australians have no binding death benefit nomination in place, which means your fund trustee, not you, effectively decides who gets your super. Today, I'll walk you through 3 simple moves. Confirm who currently gets it, estimate the tax your family would face, and lock in a binding nomination. And the number I'm about to show you is the one that changes everything. Let that number settle for a second. 6.5 million people, according to Super Consumers Australia research reported by ABC News in 2023, with no binding nomination at all. Here's the part most people miss, and it surprises almost everyone. Your super doesn't automatically follow your will. It's a completely separate legal pool. If you've left the paperwork blank, someone at your fund you've never met gets to decide who in your family is paid and how much. So here's your plan, and it's genuinely simple. Move 1, confirm who currently gets your super. Move 2, estimate the tax hit your family would face. Move 3, lock in a valid binding nomination. Each one takes you under 20 minutes, and every single one is free. Let me walk you through why this works. Here's how it actually works under the hood. Your super does not automatically form part of your estate. By law, your fund can only pay your death benefit to 2 groups. Your dependents under super law, which means a spouse de facto, a child of any age, or someone financially dependent on you, or your legal personal representative, the executor of your estate. If you have no valid binding nomination, the trustee decides which of those eligible people get your money and in what proportions, guided by the fund rules, not by what you would have wanted. And the dollars here are bigger than most people picture. Median super balances near retirement run well into the hundreds of thousands. And Rest and Australian Super both confirm a death benefit includes your full account balance plus any death insurance, which can add $100,000 or more. So depending on where you sit, a family could have anywhere from $300,000 on the lower end, up to $800,000 or more in play when one partner dies. All of it distributed at a trustee's discretion if you haven't filled in one form. And here's where it gets genuinely important. Now the second layer, and this is the part that catches people out. Super law and tax law use 2 different definitions of the word dependent. Under tax law, a death benefit's dependent. Your spouse de facto, a child under 18, or someone financially dependent on you pays no tax at all. But an independent adult child is not a death benefits dependent for tax, even though they count as a dependent under super law. That one gap between 2 definitions is the whole reason the tax gets triggered. Watch what that gap actually does to real money. Take $500,000 all taxable component from a taxed fund. Paid to an independent adult child, that's taxed at 15%, $75,000, plus a 2% Medicare levy of $10,000, according to AMP and accrue, summarising ATO rates. That's $85,000 gone, 17% before your kids see anything. Now the same $500,000 paid as a lump sum to a tax-dependent spouse, 0 tax. The full amount reaches your family, same money, completely different outcome, decided by one form. Keep in mind these are general figures, not personal advice. There's one belief that quietly puts millions of families at risk, and it sounds completely reasonable. My will covers my super. It feels obvious, right? But here's the fact. Confirmed by the Law Society of New South Wales and the ATO, super only follows your will if you specifically direct it there by nominating your legal personal representative. Leave that blank, and your carefully written will controls nothing when it comes to your super. So let's stack the two things you now understand. On one side, $85,000 in tax on a $500,000 benefit paid to an adult child, using ATO rates summarised by AMP and accrue. On the other, 6.5 million Australians with no binding nomination per Super Consumers Australia. Combine a missing form with the wrong beneficiary, and you can hand the tax office 17% of everything you spent a lifetime building. Now let me show you what this looks like for a real person. Meet Mark. He's 52, an electrician in Sydney earning $95,000 a year. He's got $420,000 in a large industry fund, plus $200,000 in default death insurance inside it. A total potential death benefit of $620,000. He's divorced with 2 adult kids, lives with a long-term partner, and his will hasn't been touched in 10 years. If any of that sounds a bit like your situation, watch closely. Because here's what Mark found. Discovery 1. Mark's will doesn't control his super at all. He'd assumed his 2014 will, leaving everything to his 2 kids, governed his super too. And honestly, most people assume exactly the same thing. It's not carelessness, it's just how the system is set up. But his fund and guidance from the Law Society of New South Wales confirm super doesn't automatically form part of his estate. With no binding nomination, his $620,000 benefit would be split at the trustee's discretion. It could legally pay half to his partner and a quarter to each child, no matter what his will says. Discovery 2. And this is the expensive one. If Mark dies tomorrow and the trustee pays the full $620,000 directly to his 2 independent adult kids, they count as non-dependents for tax. On a fully taxable balance, that's 15%, $93,000, plus a 2% Medicare levy of $12,400, using ATO rates summarised by accrue. That's $105,400 gone. His kids would see about $514,000 instead, a 17% haircut on money he worked decades to build. Discovery 3. And here's the genuinely good news. The fix is almost insultingly simple. If Mark gets his de facto relationship recognised and makes a valid binding nomination to his partner as a tax dependent, or to his legal personal representative with a clear will, a lump sum to the death benefits dependent is tax-free. That single form saves up to $105,400 on his current numbers, per ATO rates, keeping the full $620,000 in his family. Now I want to be honest with you about the catch here, because there is one. And here's the honest part I promised. This doesn't fix itself, and it gets worse the longer it's left. Project Mark's balance forward. $420,000 now, plus insurance, plus 13 years of contributions and growth, and his death benefit reaches around $900,000 by age 65. Paid to his adult kids as non-dependents, that's 15%, $135,000 plus $18,000 Medicare levy, $153,000 lost to tax using ATO rates. 17% of a lifetime of work, and the fix still takes just one form. So the real question is, could this be you? Here are 3 quick signs. 1, you've never actually filled in a binding death benefit nomination. 2, you don't know whether your nomination has expired, and many of them lapse after just 3 years. 3, you've never checked whether the person you'd want to receive it counts as a tax dependent. If even one of those rings true, that's completely normal, but do the next 3 moves before the day is out. So where does all of this leave you? You don't need to overhaul your whole financial life. You just need a few specific, practical steps you can start today. 3 moves. Let's do them together, and none of them cost you a thing. Move 1. confirm who currently gets your super. This matters because you can't fix what you can't see. Log into your fund's online portal or app and find the section labelled Beneficiaries, Nominations, or Death Benefit Nominations. Look at who's named, whether the nomination is binding, non-binding, or completely blank, and whether there's an expiry date, because many binding nominations quietly lapse after 3 years and throw you straight back to trustee discretion without you ever knowing. Here's exactly how. Log in through your fund's app or website. You can link it via MyGov if you're not sure how. Open the Beneficiaries or Death Benefit Nominations section. Then screenshot it and check both the type and the expiry date. What good looks like? A current, valid binding nomination naming only eligible dependents or your legal personal representative. If that's what you see, you're already ahead of most people. Move 2. Estimate the tax hit your family would face today. Find your taxable component on your latest fund statement, and for most long-term members, almost the entire balance is taxable. If a non-dependent adult child would receive it, multiply that taxable total by 17%. That's roughly what the ATO takes, 15% tax plus the 2% Medicare levy, before your family sees a single dollar. Knowing that number is what turns a vague worry into something you can actually fix. Here's exactly how. Find the taxable component figure on your latest statement. Add any death insurance that's taxed inside the fund. Then multiply the taxable total by 17% for the worst case bill. This is general information, not personal advice. So if the numbers are large, it's worth a chat with a licensed advisor. What good looks like? You know your family's potential tax bill right down to the dollar. Move 3. Lock in a valid binding nomination. This is the one that actually protects your family, so it's the one that matters most. Complete your fund's binding nomination form, naming only eligible dependents, a spouse de facto or financially dependent person, or your legal personal representative. And if you want your super directed through your will, you must name your LPR. A valid binding nomination forces the trustee to follow your instructions. No discretion, no guessing. Here's exactly how. Download the binding death benefit nomination form from your fund. Name eligible dependents or your LPR with clear percentage shares, so there's no ambiguity. Then sign it in front of 2 witnesses and submit it to the fund. What good looks like? Written confirmation it's valid, and a renewal date sitting in your diary so it never quietly lapses on you. You might be wondering why to act now rather than someday. Here's why. Nothing is coming to fix this for you. Back in 1997, Section 302(195) of the Tax Act locked in who counts as a death benefits dependent, and that definition isn't changing. In 2023, Super Consumers Australia, via ABC News, revealed 6.5 million Australians have no nomination at all. And in 2024, the ATO reconfirmed the rates, 15% on the taxed element, 30% on the untaxed element, plus 2% Medicare levy. The rules are settled. The only person who can protect your family is you. After you act, take a minute to verify it's stuck. This last check matters. You should see a binding nomination confirmed in your fund portal, not pending, not blank. Confirm every name on it is an eligible dependent or your legal personal representative. And if it's a lapsing nomination, often every 3 years, diarise a renewal reminder right now, so you never quietly slip back to trustee discretion without realising. Everything I've shown you today is drawn from the ATO, the Law Society of New South Wales, REST, Australian Super, and industry tax summaries from Accrue and AMP. All the links are below if you want to check any of it yourself. So here's where you've landed. You now understand something most people in your situation never do. Your super skips your will, and the ATO can quietly take 17% from the wrong beneficiary. And you know the 3 moves to stop it. Next, I'll break down binding versus non-binding nominations and which one actually protects your family. Because getting that choice right is what makes everything you've done today stick. If you take one thing from today, make it this. Log into your fund and check your nomination before you close this video. It takes 10 minutes and it could keep a six-figure sum in your family's hands. If you want to go deeper on getting the nomination itself right, that's exactly what we cover next. I'm Alex. I'll see you there.